and welcome to the first episode of Inside the Spectacle. Today's episode focuses on something seemingly very basic, but also very important, and that's knowing your weapon.
But Spectre, I already know my weapon. I know its special and its sub and how it fires. What else is there to know?
Cry. Well, yes, those are the basics of the things you need to know. There is still more to delve into when you want to play your weapon competitively. We'll be hitting 3 major points today. 1. Knowing what your weapon does. 2. Knowing your kits. And 3. Knowing how your weapon fits in a composition. By covering these 3 points, will help your understanding of choosing what weapon you play in a competitive setting. Starting off with knowing what your weapon does. Some say your weapon is an extension of yourself, but it doesn't have to be that deep. Just familiarizing yourself with what your weapon can actually do will take you far. For instance, let's take 2 weapons with which my experience is different for each. The Splat Charger and the Rapid Blaster. For the Splat Charger, it's something I've played a ton and put a ton of time into and am very familiar with. One point I know is its range, and I don't mean I stood in the testing chamber and I shot once and said that's how far it goes and was done. No, I mean that when I position myself on the map in games, I know my range. I know how far from the point of where I'm standing to where it'll reach. If I'm a Splat Charger on Arowana, you're not going to see me thinking I can challenge someone who's far out of my range even though I can see them. I know what all I can control with the range that I have. On the flip side, I've been learning more about Rapid lately. I learned that positioning is extra important, that it seems to be good for poking at people at distances, but unless you're sure you can nail those shots in directs, being aggressive might not be for you. I'm learning its strengths and its weaknesses and how it works with my teammates' weapons. Knowing how the weapon you want to play works makes all the difference in composition building. There are people who can take it the extra mile and know things like damage values and ability values, such as how many subs of Inksaber sub you need to throw a bomb and then shoot, and use that knowledge when making their builds for playing, but I would suggest just buckling down and really looking at your own play as you and your weapon get acquainted. We'll touch on knowing your kits next. Weapons come with 2 variants, kits as we call them. And while the main weapon remains the same, the sub and weapons and specials change. To understand how they work, you really have to think about the sub and specials, and once again how they work into a team composition. Taking the same 2 weapons from earlier, let's think again. The original Splat Charger has Splat Bomb and Stingray. The Splat Bomb, like most bombs, is good for poking people out of hiding or spacing them into how you want them to act. Stingray is a good long-range supportive option both offensively and defensively to get kills to make openings for your teammates on the front line to push. The Firefin Charger, however, has the Splash Wall and Bomb Rush. Taking that into mind, we know that Bomb Rush creates a lot of ink in your favor, can disrupt the enemy, or clear an area. What could we use that for, combined with the main weapon? One answer is Splat Zones, where the Charger is acting as the anchor and helps provide ink to cause chaos to help their team. For the Rapid, it can fill a strong anchor role with the first kit with Bomb Rush and Ink Mines, and be more aggressive with its second kit with Suction Bomb and Inkjet. Splattershot Pro is good for recon and chip damage with its point sensors and Rain Cloud. Forge is good for turning tides with Suction Bomb and Bubble Blower. Thinking carefully about your kits and the weapons with them is key to knowing what role you want to play in your team. That isn't to say you're hard set to a certain role, of course, with a certain weapon. Some people are more passive with aggressive weapons and vice versa. Knowing what they can do and what they can be used for will help your competitive play. Last is knowing how your weapon fits into a composition. We've touched on this slightly before, but I'll go into more detail here. There are strange comps that can work, but the higher you go, the more thought you'll have to put into your comp. For instance, if you want to play Roller and you have 2 teammates playing Blaster and 1 playing Splattershot Pro, do you think your team can keep up enough paint to help you move around? Rollers can really struggle on pushing back in without any ink to swim in. In that instance, you might want to consider switching to something that could paint a bit more, like an N-Zap or a Splattershot. If you're playing Tower Control, don't you think you might need a Stingray? But how many Stingrays do you think you'll need, and which weapon should have them? Should it be the Sloshing Machine, who would have to back off the front lines, or the Splatling, who's already chilling on the back? When you begin to think critically about how specials and subs and weapons work together around your teammates, against enemies, and in certain modes, you are on your way to bettering your understanding of the game. Before we head off, let's review. Knowing what your weapon does is important. Acknowledging its strengths and weaknesses compared to other weapons helps your understanding. Knowing what your kits do and their strong points helps your understanding of maps, modes, and fighting other players. And knowing what your weapon does will help you fill out more well-rounded compositions. With this knowledge, I hope you sit down and really start thinking deeply about your weapons and getting to know them better. Another piece of advice of learning your weapon is to also play other weapons. By playing other weapons, you begin to realize what that weapon can do, but also what it can't do compared to another weapon. You don't have to become a master, but a fun little twin session playing a weapon you don't know much about can teach you a lot, even how to fight the weapon yourself. For now, that'll be all, my dear friends. I hope that this first video has helped your understanding of the game a little more. If you liked this video, please give it a like and a comment, and subscribe to this channel if you want to see more. That's all I got for you this time. It's Miss Spectre, and I'll see you around.